Lies, 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 lies all over the SEO community. In this video, we're going to break down the top 3. Let's jump in. So, number 1 on the list is just write great content and you're going to rank. This is a horrible SEO lie, and I really want to break it down. So this comes generally from mainstream SEO sites who, for them, just writing great content actually works pretty well. But the reason that it works for them is, number 1, they have massive authority. So that means there's lots of websites out on the internet linking to their website, which powers it up, which allows them to rank by just writing great content. Now, for your normal person who does not have massive authority, just writing great content is almost never going to work. It can work in certain instances where there's lower, authority websites ranking within the niche, but it's never going to hurt. You always want to focus on writing great content. But the problem is most people just solely focus on writing great content and they never rank and they wonder why. If you take a website that has 0 authority and you write the greatest article in the world by far, it is never going to rank if you don't have the proper authority. So yes, for these large sites where they have massive authority, writing great content is a great plan, and they may even believe that this is what's getting them to rank. But what's really getting them to rank is having massive authority, then within the article just having the right keywords in the right places, and of course, great content doesn't hurt in that case because people end up sharing it and staying on the page longer and all that. So yes, you always want to focus on having great content, but this is not what gets you to rank. The reason I bring this up is because so many people just focus on writing great content and don't worry about anything else, but they don't have the authority, so they never round up ranking and they wonder why. You need to be aware of this. Just writing the great content is not going to get you to rank. And I've shown this many times. If you go search for Landenberg SEO, the number 1 site's mine, the number 2 site's mine, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I have the top 8 spots for this. But I use this as a case study where if we go to this website, you're going to see a horrible looking web page, right? It's actually completely broken. There's no images on the page. There's no videos. There's no contact information. No nothing. I mean, people are coming here and leaving right away. The bounce rate's super high. I break all of the general SEO rules, yet I rank number 1. How do I do that? Well, I have the right keywords in the right places, and of course, I have the right authority for it, right? You don't need much when you have keyword in domain for a low competition site. Now, some people will argue, well, that's very easy. Okay, well, so let's go to another one. Let's go do Nashville SEO, which is actually fairly competitive. I would say it's on the medium scale for local. And if we go to the first site, which is also mine, NashvilleSEO.org, again, you're going to see generally the same thing where I have a horrible looking site, right? There's no images on here. It's not good content. And I actually even point out, look, the rest of this content is going to be some bullshit. I have no real SEO agency. I'm just putting the right keywords in the right places to be number 1 in Google. This is case study number 2. Quality content is not a ranking factor, dummies. And this is for another video I did. But the whole point was, it's not about the content that's getting you the rank. Yes, you want to write great content, and it can only help, but that alone is not the factor that's getting you to rank. People need to get that out of their head because it's really hurting people in the end when they just focus on that and they don't understand the whole picture, okay? So that's very important to understand. You can't just write great content and rank. You need to have everything else mixed in. And that ties in to point number 2, which is that authority or links don't matter that much. And you hear this all the time with Google. Most people know that this is complete bullshit, but it's important that we point this out and show you a real example because this goes perfectly in hand with point number 1. So if we scroll down here, we're looking at an example term here, best shampoo for women. And if we scroll down, so these are all sponsored ads here, but the number 1 site right here, New York Post, has 489,000 referring domains. That is a lot of authority. Okay, let's go to number 2. Number 2 is Reddit, who has 2.8 million referring domains. Then number 3, you have Amazon, 5 million referring domains. Birdie, 119,000 referring domains. At number 5, YouTube, 40 million. Nordstrom, 105,000. Vogue, last one, 270,000 referring domains. So if links don't matter and authority doesn't matter, why are websites just dominating the first page with these types of links? You'll even see sites like Business Insider ranking for a term about money that has really, when their website's really nothing about to do with that, right? It's called, people call it leeching, or, just they'll use massive sites to write articles on so they can rank. Google has cut back on this a little bit with certain sites as far as, leeching off other sites' authority, but there's only so much they can do because authority is built into the algorithm. When it comes down to it, understand this. The hardest things to manipulate will be the biggest ranking factors. Authority is the hardest thing to manipulate. Why? Because it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, and takes a lot of effort, or all three together. If you had to build 270,000 referring domains, that's a project that's likely going to take you 10 plus years and cost you millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? Now, Vogue probably did it easier than me or you could do because they have a national brand, or worldwide brand really, where it's easier for them. But imagine doing that on your own, building 270,000 referring domains. It's hard enough to build 1,000. 1,000 referring domains can cost you $1 million+ and thousands of hours of work. So imagine trying to compete with these guys with the authority when they have 270,000. It's really, really hard in certain niches. So that's why, just kind of a side tip here, whenever you're doing your SEO, you always want to check the competition and see what type of competition's on the first page for your niche. So if I go search for something like, best food for baby pigs, well, you're going to see a different type of authority on the first page because it is a more specific niche, right? If it's a large buy niche, you're going to see massive authority. If it's a sub niche like this, you're likely going to see much lower authority. So let's go take a look and just see the difference. So the first one's 43,000. Then we got Reddit, Quora, which is big, but this one, mixed in's a lower authority here. 16 referring domains, 491 referring domains, right? Much lower than we saw before. 30,000, so that's a big one. But we do have a couple smaller sites on the first page, 718, 1800, nowhere near the 100,000 plus referring domains that we saw before. So make sure you always do your research before you go in and get into a niche, and it's something like best shampoo for women, where you see massive authority on the first page. Big mistake people make. So the last biggest lie in the SEO community, and this is one that most people don't know about, I would say, it's kind of the most unknown one, is that Google has manual reviewers everywhere. I would actually argue that Google has little to maybe even no manual reviewers when it comes down to it. So when I used to get my PBNs made, which is like a private blog network, it's these sites that you build. You're not supposed to, like everything with SEO, you're not supposed to do anything to rank. But when I used to build these, I could always track my manual penalties down to an algorithmic penalty. I could always find something I did that created a footprint that the algorithm found and penalized my websites, but it would be a manual action. So people worry all the time about these manual actions from manual reviewers, but in my opinion, Google has little to possibly even no manual reviewers out there, and they'd likely have very little. They probably have some, but it's much, much, much smaller than most people believe. A lot of people think they're everywhere, all around, checking all these websites. No, Google has to go off an algorithm because there is probably trillions of results in their index. They can't even keep up with it, right? There's so many pages getting indexed, they can't do manual reviews in most of the case. It has to be an algorithmic thing that determines penalties for certain sites. And every penalty I've ever gotten, I've been able to determine is algorithmic. I've never been able to not find an algorithmic penalty due to something that's gone wrong with my website. So understand that there's not all these manual reviewers out there researching your site, and if they find something off, they're going to penalize you, or you did this wrong, so they're going to penalize you. No, it comes down to the algorithm, and that is probably the most unknown myth when it comes to SEO, is that there's tons of manual reviewers out there that are checking all the sites. You got to be careful, and it got to look good, and because you're going to get a manual review and they're going to penalize you. No, it comes down to the algorithm in the end. So those are my top 3 biggest SEO lies. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and if you got requests for videos, comment below. See you soon.